metagame to metagame, there's been a recurring pattern that some special in particular is overwhelmingly powerful, and that players will therefore try to charge it as quickly as possible at the beginning of the match, so they kick off the first fight with an advantage. It's happened with Crab Tank, Inkjet, Tacticooler, missiles, all sorts of things, and it goes much further back than just Splatoon 3. The weapons that farm for these crucial specials, often called support weapons, tend to have high paint outputs, so the specials can be farmed more quickly, both so that more of them can be used, and also so that they're more likely to be available at the exact moment they're needed. Something I've spent a lot of time coaching support players on is the way they paint for these specials, and I want to share some ideas about that. I'll often point out how long it takes them to get the first special of the game, since there are a lot fewer confounding variables at the beginning, and it's a pretty good measure of how efficient they're being. Specifically, the drill is to put on the gear you would normally use with your weapon, and launch onto the map as you would at the very beginning of a game. You paint for special, and then check the in-game timer when you reach the spot on the map where you want to use that special and activate it. Different map modes will be faster or slower, of course, and it depends on which weapon you're using and what gear as well. But the way some players roll out and choose to paint, it would be on the slow side regardless of the situation. There isn't a map in the game where the first special needs to be taking 18 or 20 seconds to charge and activate, if you plan ahead and follow a few principles which I'll discuss now. I made a video on painting patterns a while ago, which should have a little link showing up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen in case you want to go check it out and come back. It's a useful video that's still totally applicable and that I stand by, but what I've realized in coaching players lately is that the older video doesn't give them all the tools they need to figure out how to paint an actual map. The whole video takes place in the lobby with lots of flat open ground that's all paintable. It's the largest uninterrupted paintable space in the PvP part of the game as far as I'm aware, somewhere where you could throw a Booyah Bomb and have it paint the absolute most it can without touching any walls or cover. That's not something you find on the multiplayer maps, so I wanted to talk about some optimizations for adapting your painting to the maps so you can get that special quickly. As I mentioned in the previous video, your goal when painting efficiently is to avoid firing shots that land somewhere that's already painted. Every shot that does that is a complete waste of time, so you always want to be moving your aim someplace new. Painting so you can move through the trail you create does require you to be a little inefficient to make sure that the paint is continuous and you can swim through it without hitting brakes, but that's not what we're doing here. Here, we're just trying to paint for special, so it can be as spotty and inconsistent as we like, and we do like that. The further the ink droplets are from each other, the less likely any of them are to overlap, and the better the chance we have of getting the most charge we can out of each one. Looking at a map, though, that's easier said than done, because unlike in the lobby, we're going to run out of open ground to paint before very long. On this map, for example, we end up running into unpaintable ground if we move straight toward the middle of the map. So the next tip we want to talk about is planning your route. You always want to gravitate toward the most wide open spaces you can find, and you also want to make sure that as you paint them, you're able to move in the direction of where you want the special to go, and also toward the wide open paintable ground that's next. That way you'll be able to keep painting even after the part you're in is giving you diminishing returns. Note that I said diminishing returns just now, not that I said it's completely thoroughly painted. Perfectionist painting, like you'd want to do in your base in Turf War, is very slow and inefficient, because you may spend multiple shots just to cover up little specks of ground that you missed, instead of finding unpainted ground and getting maximum value out of each shot again. Your goal is to get special fast and get out into mid. And if you get that special using only the turf that's in the very back of your own spawn, it's going to take you a lot longer to get the special from that position to a spot on the map where it'll actually be useful than it will if you steadily move forward toward mid and paint just as much as you need to have the special exactly when you get there. Also, leaving some spots unpainted in your base is sound strategic planning. Because if, later in the game, the enemy team gets a big advantage and you end up stuck further back in spawn, you'll still have some turf left over to get specials from, and you can use them to punch your way back out of the blockade. A common mistake I see players make as they execute their route is that they'll need to navigate a narrow corridor or ramp, and they'll limit their paint to just what's right in front of them on the ramp. For maximum paint output, you never want to just aim down at the floor, because you'll fire a lot more redundant shots that way. Aim up over the tops of ledges, and you'll still paint what's in front of you, but you'll also get some of the shots to fly over the side and paint the ground below, giving you the maximum possible value from your weapon. One final consideration for getting your special out as quickly as possible is avoiding where your teammates go. You can have an excellent route planned and execute well on it, but if your teammate went there first and painted half of it themselves, you won't get the special charged as quickly as you expect. In a coordinated setting, I highly recommend for support players to call out which part of the map they intend to paint at the beginning of the game, and set the expectation that their teammates leave that part of the map to them. In solo queue, it becomes a little more inconsistent, but you can generally get a decent idea of where your teammates are going by watching which direction they launch in, and once you see the line they're taking after that, you can plan accordingly. Best of luck cranking out those 10-second specials. It can turn what's otherwise a pretty non-interactive task into a fun little mini-game for you, and it'll kickstart a lot more successful opening pushes as long as you collect information on enemy positions while you're painting, and show up ready to play off the special you charged.